Livestream number 36. I'm just going to untangle these headphones so I can plug them in. Tonight we're going to be discussing something that I think a few people have mentioned before, and that is left-hand drive cars that were sold in this country, and possibly some were going to be sold in this country, ultimately weren't. There's quite a few of them actually. The most obvious example, and I'm sure I'll get many people talking about this straight away, is the Fiat Barchetta. This was based on the platform of the Mark 1 Fiat Punto, and you could get right-hand drive conversions. They actually kind of sold them for quite a long time. I think that they finished production about 2004. There was a time that it weren't in production, but certainly the Barchetta is the most obvious one. Also look at the Chevrolet Corvette. Various Corvettes over the years were only sold in left-hand drive. The most recent one I think you can get in right-hand drive. I think it's a C8. I'm not very good on the Corvette model codes myself. The other one is the Renault Twingo. Now, those weren't ever sold officially over here, but I suppose you could pick one up. There's actually one at the event I was attending yesterday, which was in the Cotswolds, where you would have seen that I sort of ran into Ian Seabrook when I was there. Hopefully you can hear me sort of better now. I always try to use the headphones because it does give slightly better audio. I'm just going to bring up the chat box here, because I see I've had a few people already leave some little comments, which you'll have a look at. This video, for some reason, seems to be working better than most of the live streams I do with this phone. I don't know why that is. Often it doesn't focus properly, but the video quality is better on this one, so I tend to use this as opposed to some of the other phones I have. I do have a few of them. So yes, one of the things that I'm aware of as well is that there was particular versions of some cars, and the E30 BMW M3 comes to mind immediately, that were only available in left-hand drive, but the normal E30s you could buy in right-hand drive. I'm trying to think of other examples of things like that. I think the Mercedes-Benz E500 or 500e, the W124 shape was like that too. So yes, let me just bring up this on here so we can go through some of the comments that have come through already. Thank you to those already who've entered the chat box. It's very good of you. Here we go. Right, it's just here. I should do it on the laptop. It's much easier to sort of keep track of things like that on here. So there we go. Pop the chat out, and there we go. Okay, quite a few of them on here. Right. Okay. Oh, a lot of people. It's a good topic, this, obviously. I'll get my dark fruit cider as well. Simone, Hooked on Classic, says, good evening. Good evening, Simone. How are you? Paulie Galtieri says, good evening. Good evening, sir. Paul JN says, good evening, sir. Good evening to you, sir. Pluto Motors Blackpool says, good evening, everybody. Good evening to you, sir. I must visit Blackpool at some point. Our resident channel celebrity, Sir Depeche Mode, says, a very good evening, sir, with many exclamation marks. A very good evening to you, sir, with many exclamation marks. Paulie Galtieri says, the Volkswagen thing. No, that was actually sold in this country in right-hand drive as the Tracker. There weren't many Trackers sold here, but you could get it. Matt W says, hi. DBT says, picking up Volvo tomorrow, looking forward to it. I think, is this the 940, sir, that you're talking about? I have seen some pictures, it looks very nice. We'll have to see if we can get that on the channel at some point. Simone, it's a very good point. Just talking about the Lancia Delta Integrale. With the Mark 1 Delta, the Integrale, certainly you're talking about things like the Evolution and Evo 2 models. Those were in left-hand drive, although the standard Deltas, you could actually buy those in right-hand drive, quite a lot of them. So yeah, the LHF turbos I think were available right-hand drive as well. Paul J says don't mention Volvos. Yes, video coming up tomorrow about that. Russell Hunter says greetings, sorry to be late. Don't worry, sir. Pluto Motors Blackpool says to Fiat Barchetta. Yeah, it's the first thing I actually said right at the beginning of live streams of Barchetta. Mr. Hayden Saxby makes a good point. He says the Citroen Ami is left-hand drive, but it's not technically a car. No, it's a quadricycle, but obviously it's used for many of the same purposes as a car. I think Chris and Simona having a little chat there. I'm sorry to hear you've had such a bad day, Simona. That's most upsetting. DBT, yeah, it's for 940. It was coming good. Russell Hunter, he says, the Volvo 780 Coupe, yes, never sold in right-hand drive. A very, very lovely car. And if Mr. Coleman's around this evening, I'm sure he'll have many, many things to say about a 780 Coupe. One very unfortunate thing is I think you get one of those with a forbidden fuel engine, which is a bit of a shame. Pluto Motors Blackpool says, you can drive my cars if you come over to Blackpool. Sir, please send me an email at the usual address that you'll see in most of the videos and give me a list of the sort of stuff that you have, and we'll see if we can make that happen this year. Paulie Gartelli says, Alfa Romeo 8C. Was the 8C only available in left-hand drive? I've forgotten about that. 4C, was the 4C only available in left-hand drive as well? Yeah. So I'm sorry to hear you had a bad day. It's never very good. Let's think about some others maybe. So E30, Barchetta, which is the obvious one really. Chevrolet Camaro, that was I think only available left-hand drive for a while. When it was sold officially over here, sort of late 90s, early 2000s. I think actually you could get a Camaro until really quite recently. I think maybe you still can. Pluto Motors Blackpool, Chris, he says, I think the 4C was available in right-hand drive. Okay, yeah, I thought I was, yeah, I was good to see if I was actually right for a change. Wayne says, I hope you're well. Show season, looking forward to it. Yeah. Effectively, show season's already kind of started because yesterday's event sort of was a show, I suppose, at the Classic Motor Hub in the Cotswolds. I suppose it was in a way. Maybe it doesn't count as a show, I don't know. You let me know in the comment section what actually counts as a show and what doesn't. Certainly got a few of those and an actual show coming up next month. I think I've got 2 in 2 days actually. Simone says, I found a big screw in the front tyre of the Rover. Oh dear, I was trying to drive home gently, but I ended up having to fit the spare and the space over was flat. Oh dear. Simone, how did you actually manage to get back then? Sean Cook says, good evening, sir. Alfa Romeo Spider Duetto. Was that only available in left-hand drive, sir? Russell Hunter. Weren't Mark II Sierra 3 doors only available left-hand drive? Yes, we didn't get the facelifted Sierra body shell in this country with right-hand drive. I've never seen one at all. I think that's why the old sort of RS Cosworth 500 things like that was still on the old body shell, wasn't it? Until after the facelifted one had come out. Simone said you drove very gingerly. Yeah, nail of a tyre. Yeah, I would have thought so. Let's just think about other ones. So yeah, Mark 1 Twingo, obviously.
although that wasn't ever officially sold over here. What was I can't remember the reason now. There was a reason. That's why they kept selling the Renault 5 Campus for as long as they did. Eventually, they were able to fit bigger engines to the Twingo. It was originally a Cléon-Font engine, a similar one to the Renault 5 Campus, but a 1.2, not a 1.4. They've been around forever. They couldn't fit the later engines, that the sort of overhead cam ones to it. Um, Heading to Saxby, thoughts on Mazda Racing the 6. The 6 has been in production in its current form for about 10 years, you know. I don't really have much to say, really. I'm not sure there's really anybody else left. Skoda have, I think, discontinued the Superb in this country. I'm struggling to think of any manufacturer that now has a conventional sort of saloon in that way, but it's not, like Medicom as a premium brand, which is, Lexus and BMW and Mercedes and Audi. Um, yeah, I don't know if there's any of them left. I wonder if the Mazda 3 Saloon's got out of production as well, because again, there were no rivals to that car for quite some time. It's just the way that it goes. I mean, I quite like the Mazda 6. I think it's very good, but it's just people don't want to buy them, and there's not much you can do if nobody wants to buy it, is there? There's not an awful lot that you can do. Um, yeah. Pluto Motors Blackpool says Chris says a flat spare is a nightmare. It had happened to my van, so I took a screw out the tyre, wrapped some tape round it, put it back in, and pumped the tyre up. Oh dear, yeah, crazy. Paulie Galtieri says the Mark II Granada two-door wasn't sold in this market. It wasn't just the Mark II Granada. It was the Mark One Granada as well. We never got the two-door over here. We got the coupe, only in 3-litre V6 gear trim. Um, um, but yeah, but Mark One and Mark Two, we didn't get the two-door. Hayden Saxby says the Superb is entering new generation this year. In fact, I've heard that it's been discontinued for our market. Maybe my information's wrong, but that's what I've heard. It'd be the last one of that type on sale, I think. That's not the Vercom's premium brand. Um, Chris and Pluto Motors Blackpool says the Opel GT is another that's not probably not mentioned. Um, yeah, there were two Opel GTs really. There was the original one from I think 69 to about 75 of memory. There was another one which was kind of based on a car called the Pontiac Solstice. I think that's right. That was about 2008, something like that. We didn't get either of those cars in this country. Um, That's not my name. Very good. Says, can you please do some Suzuki reviews? I once had a Baleno from 1998 and loved it. I've done loads of Suzuki reviews. One of my most popular reviews on the channel is a 2004 Grand Vitara that I filmed in half an hour. Um, I also done a Jimny. That was the first episode of No Budget Reviews. Was a Jimny. I've done a Celerio 2020. I've done a two Swift Sports actually. I did one in 2021 and one in 2022, a couple of months apart. I've done a lot of Suzuki reviews. I've done the new S Cross. I've done that. I've done the current generation Vitara twice. I've done a number of Suzuki reviews. I think those are the ones I've done. I'd like to do a Baleno, but I've never ever been offered one. I'm really trying to get hold of one, and I've never been offered one apart from someone a while ago during lockdown said he had one, but it was like off the road at the time or something. Um, so yeah, I've done a few. It just again, it's the age-old question is that is someone going to offer me one? Otherwise, I won't be able to do it. And I did a very vague vlog this week asking the people to submit cars to review, and I've had one response, which was a bit annoying, really. Because I said quite a lot of things about the video about how I accept quite a lot of different cars, and if you just assume that I don't want to review it, I'm not talking about cars that we of engines that we don't discuss on the channel thanks to the Mayor of London and his friends. I'm talking about virtually anything else that I haven't had, and a lot of the time people don't bother to email me because they just assume that I won't want to review it. And a lot of the time I do. I mean, the Renault Capture you would have seen, it's not the kind of thing we normally have on the channel particularly, but I got offered it and I decided to do it because it was for a very old friend of mine who supplied a car about 4 years ago for the channel, which was the 207, and it was awful, but she still supplied it and it was very good. So the Capture's done sort of moderately well actually for some reason, which is good. But yeah, it's not the sort of typical thing we have all the time, but I'm quite open to sort of a lot of stuff, to be honest, unless I know it's so terrible that I don't really want to drive it. I drove a car actually up at Langley Prestige and Chelmsford over the last few days, and you just would have seen the first episode of that go up. I did 6 cars in under 24 hours when I was there. And one of them, the last one I drove, was pretty bad. It was bad. I won't tell you what one it is, actually. I'll just leave you all in suspense about that, I think. Russell Hunter, the early Fiat Panda 4x4 model. Was that only available left-hand drive? It probably was. Paulie Galtieri says the 1976 Opel Diplomat. Yeah, the KAD cars, they called those. The Capitaine, the Admiral, and the Diplomat. They were all very similar. And when the Senator came out in, I think, about 1978, they discontinued all 3 of those. They basically really didn't need all of them on the market, but we never got any of those officially over here. Simone says the car's going to be okay. That's great. Oh right, yeah, a really obvious one that Chris from Pluto Motors Blackpool has said. The Audi Quattro was left-hand drive for the first couple of years. It absolutely was. And if you watch Life on Mars, you'll see there's a major sort of continuity problem with the Quattro because it's a right-hand drive car. I think it's an 83. That's the first year that those were available in a right-hand drive. And the first series is set in 81, so bit of a problem there. They could get around it with some excuses about things, I think. It's like that sort of Mark III Allegro Panda car that showed up in Life on Mars. Sorry, Ashes to Ashes was the one with the Quattro. Life on Mars was the one with the Allegro Series 3 turning up an episode that was launched in 79. I get confused between those two sometimes. Russell says there was a Senator Irmscher model that was left-hand drive. Yeah, there probably was, I think. Bizarrely, the Bitters, they actually were available in a right-hand drive because I've seen one. You'd think that a limited production car like that was rated to the Senator, you'd think they wouldn't bother engineering a right-hand drive one, but they did. I've seen one. Simone would like to ask a question that I'm not sure we can answer. She says, was there never a forbidden fuel hybrid? There might have been, Simone, but I'm afraid, as usual, we don't talk about diesels on this channel. So I can't answer that question, I'm afraid. Yeah, there was something that came to mind. Yes, there was a really weird car called the Peugeot 4008. It's actually a rebranded Mitsubishi ASX, and we never got it. We never got it. There was a Citroen version as well that I've totally forgotten the name of. These were sort of slightly smaller versions of the kind of Mitsubishi Outlander type Peugeot 4007 and the Citroen C-Crosser. They didn't sell very well anywhere. The 4007 C-Crosser did come over here, but the 4008 and the Citroen equivalent, I forget the name of the car. I've totally forgotten. It's based on Mitsubishi ASX. Those were never available in right-hand drive. I don't know where they would have fitted in the range, to be honest, as well, because Peugeot already have a 3008 by that stage. So I don't really know. The Cadillac Seville STS, says Paulie Galtieri. Yes, that was actually right-hand drive when it came over, I think around 1998. Bizarrely, there's one of those in an episode of Randall and Hotcoat Deceased, the reimagined version with Reese and Mortimer, which we shouldn't really talk about anyway because Reese and Mortimer are wonderful. That series is really bad, particularly as somebody who is a sort of big fan of the original ITC series from back in the 60s. Yeah. Oh, here we go. Matt W says, wasn't there a US spec Ford available to special order in the 80s, a Ford LDT? I've no idea. I've never seen one anyway. That's not my name, so I'd like to see a Suzuki Wagon R, X90 or Baleno, early stuff. Again, it's just a question of whether or not I get offered this stuff. I'd like to do all sort of those, and I do see that kind of stuff at shows, but if nobody offers a car like that to me, I can't review it. It's pretty much as simple as that. I sometimes ask around for stuff like that if I can, but sometimes I just don't get anywhere. It's mainly people just offering that sort of stuff to me, I'm afraid. That's why I might make these videos, but nobody seems to want to offer me stuff after I make the videos anyway. So, I shouldn't really bother with them sometimes, should I? Russell asked a very important question: were there any cars made by UK manufacturers that were not sold here? I mean, things like the Austin Kimberley and the Tasman and the Nomad. I mean, they were British manufacturers, but they weren't sold over here. So Moan says, what should I know about recent gathering? It wasn't very well advertised. It was very poorly advertised. It was quite a sort of small, affair. It wasn't very big. They deliberately kept it quite small, I think. I don't know if they'll advertise it a bit more widely. I just happened across it by accident, and I didn't know Ian Seabrook was going to be there. I don't think he told people he was going to come either. I think it was deliberate because they had limited space. You had to actually sign up and submit your car to be, to sort of go. So, yeah, there wasn't any notice because, well, they weren't very good at advertising it. It wasn't like an open event, if that makes sense. You had to actually apply to have a space. Unfortunately, they let me in. Russell Hunter, Porsche 914. Yes. Yeah, that's a really good choice, actually. Yeah, the 914, I don't even think it was even sold officially here. I've never seen a UK market one, but then because they only ever made it in left-hand drive, that's maybe not a surprise. The ones you tend to see over here were normally American imports. I have seen them, but I've never seen a UK market one. Oh, good, Mr. Coleman is here. Good evening, Mr. Coleman. Mr. Coleman, can you think of any cars that were sold over here in left-hand drive only that aren't things like the Barchetta and the V30 M3 and things like that? Obviously, the Camaros and the Corvettes were sold over here, I think, until quite recently in left-hand drive. Mr. Coleman said the Chevy C10. Was that sold over here? I didn't realise that. I know there's T's for C10. I didn't realise it was sold here at all. That's interesting. Right, so we're on about 24 minutes so far. Simon, Lot 76 Cars is here. Hello, Simon. How are you? Early Corrados were left-hand drive only. I didn't realise that. And the early TTS. Yeah, that's interesting. I think the normal CTs were right-hand drive immediately. And then That's My Name that's a very good point. The first smart cars, that's absolutely right. When the Smart was launched in 1998, they were only left-hand drive for a time. I think also, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Richardson's just got a new Beetle, but of course we can't talk about that on the channel. I think those, the petrol engine ones, of course, those were only sort of left-hand drive initially as well, I think, from memory. Mr. Coleman's got a very good one. This is not something that I think most of us would have known. The E23 BMW 745i was left-hand drive only. Yes, there's one of those in his family, actually, I think. Matt W. It's a very interesting point, this actually. AMC, American Motors, in the mid 70s, sold cars over here. I think they were right-hand drive. So I also heard of the Pacer being converted to right-hand drive, and the fact was that the driver's door was longer on the Pacer than a passenger door. But if you switched the wheel to the other side, the passenger door was on the wrong side to have the long door, I think. Simon Optimistic Cars says it was the G60 Corrado that was only left-hand drive initially. There could be. The Rally Golf Mark II, that wasn't sold officially over here. The Golf Country wasn't sold officially over here. They were both left-hand drive only. I have seen a Golf Country, but oh gosh, not for a while. Mr. Coleman making the point about the 745i only being a left-hand drive. Yeah, his brother actually has one. Yeah, he does. He bought it recently, I think. Russell Under, that's a very good point. And Motor Magazine at the time said about the AMC Pacer, said, we tested the Pacer and we wish we hadn't. Yes, that's absolutely true. It was not very well received by the press in this country. My gosh, this is a rare car. Chris from Pluto Motors Blackpool says the Monteverdi 375. Most people haven't even heard of the Monteverdi, let alone the 375. There was also the Monteverdi, I think it was called the Safari, but was based on an International Motors Harvester. International Harvester. What was the Scout? That's it, International Harvester Scout. I get very confused with the International Motors and International Harvester. It's quite a rich topic, this, actually, with this left-hand drive only stuff. We've covered quite a lot. I'm trying to work out what the most obscure one is. Probably the Monteverdi. I don't think I've ever seen a Monteverdi of any type in my life, ever. There was the Monica, which was, again, a really bizarre car from the 70s that, a bit like the Monteverdi, was powered by some big American V8, conceived in France, and low and left-hand drive. I think they've sold about 10 of them. It was a very obscure car, the Monica. And then, this is one I should have thought of myself, Lancia Kappa. Mr. Coleman had custody of a Kappa for a while. There's a walker under that on the channel from December 2021. That car was sold last year. But yeah, never available in this country at all. The next Lancia, I think, I always get the name of the one that replaced it, from Thesis, which was also only left-hand drive. Sound Not Serious Cars says the last left-hand drive only must have been the Jaguar XE Project 8, due to issue with right-hand drive for the steering column. Yeah, possibly. That's what my name says. The DeLorean DMC-12. That's an interesting question, because they did make some right-hand drive DMC-12s. Not a lot of them, but they did make some. So yes, no with the DeLorean. Yeah, Mr. Coleman just backed me up. Pluto Motors Blackpool, Chris says, I've only seen a Monteverdi in a book or magazine. Yeah, me too. Richard O'Connell says, I like the beige leather interior. Yes, we got given these when we moved into the house. A work colleague of my lady wife's gave these to us, which was very nice. So we have beige leather interiors all the time. My mother hates them, but I like it. Russell says, the Citroen GS B Rotor. Yeah, that wasn't sold in right-hand drive. I mean, it wasn't really sold at all very much. I'm not sure there are many of those left these days. They didn't sell a lot of them. The reliability of the GS Bigotor was awful. Simone makes a good point. Many DeLoreans were left-hand drive, and they were converted to right-hand drive. That's a good point. I think you can still buy like a virtually like new DeLorean from that company in America. I can't remember the name of the company that makes them now, but I think you can still effectively buy a brand new DeLorean. Do you want to? Oh, that's good. That's cider. Right, do we have anything else we'd like to discuss? Because we have just gone over kind of half an hour. But I think that's sort of good for tonight. Frank Butcher, he's got a question. My 2018 car's gone up again in value. Yeah, high second-hand prices. It requires a camber and water pump at a certain amount of money. Do you think renewing it for a similar car is worth it? Electric cars for charging infrastructure is not. I imagine that's not good. I'll just do the. I just keep hold of the car and do the camber and water pump. To be honest, that's what I would do. Because I've just been at a second-hand car dealership this week and I reviewed 6 of the cars there. You'll see the next one, apart from the Polo that will come out tonight. You'll see the next one on Tuesday. I asked Simon, who runs Langley Prestige there, whether or not second-hand car prices were softening, and his answer is no. There are 2 examples of the cars that I reviewed when I was there that he just literally just traded them in, and he got one trade in the first day I was there. Said, "Would you like to film it tomorrow?" And then I reviewed it next day. And then I got one the next day that came in, and I reviewed it about an hour after being traded in. I actually waited for the finance agreement on the new car to go through so I could then film that. So, you know, he's trying to replace stock, but he keeps selling stuff just flies out the door. He finds it difficult to replace the stock. So yeah, second-hand car prices are still very, very high. I made this video about it with a thumbnail of a yellow Mercedes-Benz 190 in it back in November or something, and that's been really popular, and it still holds water now. The second-hand prices, apart from electric cars, those are actually decreasing in value because there's oversupply of them. But normal cars, yeah, the prices are still really high. Richard O'Connell says, imagine my disappointment when I turned onto the Mandalorian, expecting to see a chap in his early 80s sports car. Yeah, I haven't ever seen that, you know. Paulie Gartelli says, Facel Vega, yes, I don't think they were available in right-hand drive. Beautiful cars, those. It's unfortunate they cost a lot of money to make. Simone, it's a good thing here. What does it say? Rover 75 values are increasing for the for the best ones, yeah, absolutely. Just generally, I think, yeah, but a lot of them have been scrapped now. They're just disappearing, aren't they? They're very expensive jobs to fix on them, rust, and you know, if it's KV6, it's 3 timing belts and thermostat housings and all kinds of things like that. They're quite complicated cars. They're very nice to drive. I've driven several 75s. It's just often the car is beyond economic repair and MOT a lot of the time they turn up, and so they get scrapped, and so the values are going up for the best ones. I think you can still buy a 75 for £1,000 at MOT though. I think you can. Lots of it's car. This is a good question. Do we all think with the backlash the ultra low emission zone extension will be cancelled? I do hope so, Simon. I know Mr. Hunt and Jeff buys cars. He's now got an enormous channel since I filmed the videos with him in November. His channel's enormous now. Yeah, he's been talking about this. I think it's a sensible idea to get rid of it. The extension, I think, is a terrible idea. I first made a video about the extension in June 2021. That's 2022, sorry, not 2021, 2022. And yeah, I've been talking about this for ages, but for some reason everyone seems to be surprised by it or something now. I don't quite know, and don't know why, but there we go. Yeah, I hope so. Mr. Coleman says, yeah, something I mentioned quite early on in the video, I think. The first generation Delta Integrale was left-hand drive only. Yes, it was. The normal ones, even the HF Turbo, was available in right-hand drive, but the Delta Integrale certainly was not available in right-hand drive. Russell Hunter makes a good point here. We know why we don't talk about these on the channel, don't you? Because we not very fond, particularly of the Mayor of London and his friends all around the country, are we? Unlike Lot 76 cars, Sadiq Khan doesn't do democracy. That's very good. Matt W. This is an interesting thing. I saw an SM actually. It's a very nice one, at Classic Motor Hub yesterday in the video. You'll see it. Did the Citroen SM get a mention? I think that there's a company that did right-hand drive conversions from the 70s. I thought you could get a right-hand drive SM from the factory, but I might be wrong. Simone says, your video on the car change values was very good. Yeah, that was totally spontaneous. I was short of a video on a day, and I just I took a long time to actually make that. Yeah, it took a long time to make it, but I'm glad I did. It was very interesting doing it. It took quite a long time to just work out all the stuff and find the pictures and all that kind of thing. But yeah, it was very interesting. Simon says, lots of its cars, a Cavalier SRI from 1984 went through Anglia car auctions today, sold for £9,300. It was only 8485 new. Well, you look at the values of things like, I don't know, Sierra RS Cosworth hatch. They're worth a lot of money, aren't they? Like £80,000 in some cases. Frank Butcher says it's 1050 for the cam, but water pump in his car. Electric charging won't meet the 2030 deadline, possibly. Pump electric charging points over £40 charge 200 miles. Yeah, the cost of charging has gone up a lot. I think in 2019, when I first, took notice of how much it costs to charge an electric car, 35 pence per kilowatt was actually expensive. Now it's about 65 pence. It's almost double since then. It's crazy. Mr. Coleman also agrees with the maxim of the channel that we find that the Mayor of London and his friends are not particularly friends of the channel. That's Not My Name says, a friend who has just had old bangers was given a Mark II Cavalier for free years ago. It was left-hand drive, but worthless at the time. They're happy to have a nice car, so I put up with it. Yes, there's a whole video that Top Gear did years ago. We're talking classic Top Gear from the late 90s about cars only available on left-hand drive. Yeah, I think it's on YouTube somewhere. Paul Ligacci makes the point that Sadiq Khan is not welcome in certain places, even quite nasty ones. Russ Hunter says, ideal for a future video. Why do some cars go on to become classics and others get forgotten? That's a very interesting topic. You've just given me the topic for next week's very vague vlog, sir. I don't think there is an answer to something like that. There just isn't. I don't think there is an answer. It's certainly one to discuss, but I'm not sure there is an answer to that. Frank Butcher says, when are you doing a social event? I've missed that. Well, I haven't advertised one for some time. I've been looking at sort of club, teaming up with some others for the next one. Now, there's a fuel power event on the 1st of April at Jilk's Garage at Kyneton. I'll certainly be going to that. I'll probably take the Sanyong to that, actually, because Mr. Coleman has offered to do some work on that for me. That's, we need to do that. So I think we'll be going to that one. I've actually booked into that. Mr. Richardson from Furious Driving is doing a couple of events. One is on the 18th of March at the Talk Moto Cafe. near Horsham, and one is at the 30th of April at the Motorist in Yorkshire. I'll probably be going to both of those. So yes, I'll probably start advertising those events in videos very soon. I'll put the captions in for them, and those will probably be the best opportunity in that sort of way. Because I find when I do my own social events, we don't tend to get very many people coming, and it's a lot of work to actually organise them. So we tend to just sort of, say we're going to be at another one. That tends to work out a bit better at the moment. Silent Lot 76 Cars and Richard O'Connell are very happy to have social events. Yes, we can have them. It's just a question of having the right sort of resources to put them on. Stuart Smith says left-hand drive assault in Britain. BMW Z1, yeah, absolutely. Ferrari 288 GTO, yes. Ferrari F40, oh really? Was that not available in right-hand drive? Ferrari F50, yeah, I'm pretty sure that wasn't available in right-hand drive. The Matra Simca Bagheera, yes. Mercedes E-Class, no, Mercedes 190E 2.5 16 valve Evo. Yeah, I'm not very. I don't remember actually. You're probably right. Porsche 959, yeah. VW Golf Mark II Rally, yes. A Rally Golf was absolutely not available in right-hand drive at all. I have seen some Rally Golfs, but yeah, none of them are right-hand drive. Frank Butcher says Fuel Power are doing a good job. Yeah, Mr. Bill and Lady Coolwell Holmes. They're doing a good job. Very persistent, actually, keeping going through stuff. Chris from Blackpool says looking forward to go to social events starting up. Yeah, well, I've just given you some dates of ones that are coming up, so there we go. Simone said I need to get to a social event. Well, got some coming up there, haven't we now? So that'll be good. Right, so not another sip of this. That's not my name. Says, have you ever driven a left-hand drive car? Yep, I have. I've driven one on my channel. It was a 2022 Peugeot e-Rifter. It was just before the e-Rifter was actually launched in this country, and my friend's got two. He's got two e-Rifters. One's a left-hand drive for his house in France, and he's just literally now picked up a right-hand drive one. If you want to see the review of the right-hand drive one, I've also been off another car in that area, so I can go and do that if you're interested in that. That's the right-hand drive one. Roderick Jones says, I just joined the stream. What cheap beer or lager are you drinking this evening? It's not actually cheap beer or lager. It's this. Right. Oh, good evening, sir. It's Mr. Matt, who has some very nice Volvos. Lots of you like. Glad you're getting some downtime. I'm getting some downtime for the simple reason that I just spent today doing my tax return and paying for my tax, which wasn't really downtime, but my lady wife helped me out and we managed to do it, which is good. So I won't get my penalty for doing that. I don't like doing tax because, as Mr. Coleman and I frequently discuss, I'm really terrible with numbers. And anything to do with numbers and sort of, putting the figures in the right box and things like that, I find very, very stressful. It's not something my mind works very well with. But that's all done. I also worked out today that I'd edited 13 reviews in less than a week. So did 7 at Great British Car Journey, 6 at Langley Prestige. So yeah, 13 videos I edited of cars in less than a week, plus some others like the one from the social event yesterday. Obviously I edited that, some very vlogs. I've got another very vlog to edit because I've recorded one this morning that'll be for the channel members on the top 2 tiers. You will sort of see that. Yeah, as Mr. Matt says, It was taxing. Yes, it was taxing. I didn't like it. I don't like doing my tax. Nobody does. Paulie Artillery says, have you driven Mr. Hunter's new 850 T5? I have not, sir, I'm afraid. I don't know if I'm going to be able to drive that one, unfortunately. He does live quite a long way from where I do. It is like well over 2 hours to get to Worcester from here, so it's not like it's down the road. I'm finding out more and more that when I review cars, I kind of need a good number of cars to review. So British Car Journey was worth it. I had 7 cars in a day. Langley Prestige and Chelmsford was worth it. I got 6 cars out of that trip. Because you've got to think about the cost of the fuel. You've got to think about accommodation and food and all that sort of stuff. And when you're at the sort of size that my channel is, you do get some money per month from YouTube, but it's not nearly as much as most people would think. So you've got to sort of mitigate that somehow. And if you can do lots of reviews at once, it sort of helps it. If it's just like one car and you've got to drive like over 2 hours one way to get there, it can be a little bit sort of heavy on the wallet, you see. Frank Butcher, this is a good question. Would you revisit any of your older videos later in ownership, in the sense of, like, someone's provided a car for the channel, they've still got it 4 years later and go and see it? I don't really know. It sort of depends, really, if that's sort of interesting enough to sort of say anything about it, really. Mr. Matt says, yeah, the 13 videos in a week of 30 reviews. Yeah, it's just best because I've worked it out and I've now got enough reviews until like 21st of February, something like that. I've got if I schedule them all up, I've got enough to do that, which is really the best way to go. That's far better than sort of just running around being headless chicken, being too spontaneous. So for someone like me, it's much better to get ahead like that. Sean Cook says, was the original BMW 325iX left-hand drive only? I've no idea, sir. Someone like Mr. Coleman might know if he's still here. So, yeah. So I've said with this. I think that's sort of it, really. It's a good topic. For some reason, I often get these topics, inspiration for them quite soon before the live streams, and so there'll probably be another one. Last time was public transport and things like that, I think, and that was an interesting thing to do. Again, that was quite a spontaneous thing that sort of came to me, and actually that video went down quite well. Didn't get the sort of most number of views, but January's quite a sort of difficult month for YouTube compared with December or November. November is very good for me generally. We have the NSC Classic Car Show. But December doesn't tend to do that well for me until after Christmas. After Christmas would be very good, and we had things like the Barron's Classic Car Auctions video do really well in December. That was actually that was filmed and put out on my birthday, which was very good. I was very happy about that. And then the one from this month did well too. But yeah, January can be a bit, because the companies that advertise on YouTube, they don't want to pay so much money when they've already paid loads of money if you're up to Christmas. So, or for January sales type thing. So generally it's a bit down. So you just got to keep going with whatever you can find to do, really. Simone asks, would you test the Carver 1 3-wheeler? I don't see why not if I can get hold of one, but that's going to be hard to get hold of. Mr. Matt asks, what do you use for video editing? I was given a piece of software ages ago by Planet Auto, Mr. Quirk. It's called Coral Video Studio Pro X7, I think. It's ancient. It was designed, I think, to Windows 8 or something like that. But because I tend to use like a £300 laptop, this is my second £300 laptop, or maybe £380 this one was. It's quite difficult to run something like DaVinci Resolve, which is what a lot of people use, like Lloyd's Mechanical Marvels use DaVinci Resolve for video editing. It's quite difficult to run something like that on a laptop that's not particularly powerful. So this is ideal. It's got limitations on it. There's certain things you can't do, but I'm quite quick on doing it now, and I know how it works. It's a very obscure piece of software, but I was fortunate to be given it for free, and that's what I use, and I'm just used to it, and it works for kind of limited um, editing that I can do. I'm really not much of an editor myself. I just do it because it's cheaper for me to fiddle around and try to do it than trying to pay someone else to do it. Where you get the True Jacket review or someone else for an edit, which is by far my preference, but because that's so expensive, we had to stop doing that. Frank Butcher says there was a nice Rover 75 go through Anglia cartridge today. I think it's 5,600. Okay, yeah, I've seen 75 advertised £15,000 before. Don't know if they're worth that though. Lancia Tamer 832. Why didn't we think about that before? That's definitely a car that was sold in this country, only left-hand drive. Next time, can we do cars sold and right-hand drive in the UK? Yeah. That'll probably be most of them. We'll be talking about it in the next live stream. Frank says, living so close to Southampton docks, we'd like to review the queues at the port of all the new and older models in Pearl Export. You can't really get close to the docks in that sort of way unless you have a reason to be in the docks. I have actually helped somebody pick up a car from Portsmouth and drive it to London, which is what he asked me to do for him. I've done that, but you have to have a reason to get in there, and I had papers obviously to do that. Frank says great content, thank you. Mr. Matt says I'm going to say use DaVinci Resolve, but it's an issue. The only video I've ever edited in DaVinci Resolve was a video I did during lockdown with Mr. Richardson. We talked about the cars used in the old Avengers TV series, the second part of it, and I couldn't get Coral Video Studio to work. The file was too long; it just wouldn't accept it. I don't know if that was my laptop or something else, but I managed just about to get DaVinci Resolve on there, sort of worked out how it worked, and I've only edited one video on it. If my desktop computer worked, it was a custom desktop built about 6 years ago, I think. It's very fast, it works fine. I would use DaVinci Resolve on there, but because I edit often whilst I'm away, I sort of just tend to use this, and it works for what I need to work, and I know how it works, so there we go. Silence with this car says I'm editing on iMovie and it'd be basic, but it works and you get quicker. Yeah, it's the same sort of thing really. There's not really an equivalent to that on PC anymore, because I think Windows Movie Maker was discontinued some time ago, and that's even more basic than what either of us use. But it's whatever works for you. But you know, if it was free and it does what I need to do, and something like Sensible Secondhand Classics or Shambolic Shuffles is perfect for that. It might not be fancy, but it works. So there we are. Anyway, I think that's quite enough for tonight. An interesting range of topics for conversation. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, particularly because there's a very important update on the Volvo coming up tomorrow. For those who haven't seen, those of you already seen it, you'll know what that is. Those who maybe haven't seen it, just hold on to your hats. And don't forget to like this video, leave a comment below. Thank you to everybody who's joined us tonight, and we shall see you again soon.